Let me say it is an honor and pleasure to speak here today amongst such an inspirational lineup of speakers. Welcome to my segment on adopting Jenkins-X at Simplified Telephony Solutions. And who am I? My name is Matthew Labrasseur. And ever since I can remember, I've wanted to work with people and technology. I have worn many hats over the last 13 years working professionally in technology, from systems engineer to IT manager, and now the Vice President of Information Technology for Simplified Telephony Solutions, based out of Toronto, Ontario, Canada. My current certifications include CompTIA's A+, Network and Linux Plus, as well as Microsoft's MCSA in Server and Messaging and Communications. Don't let the title fool you. I write more code and set up more infrastructure than most of the VPs in the industry. I like to call it staying current. This is why I am here to discuss my journey into CI/CD and how it has changed my life forever, ultimately leading to improved work experience for my team as well as our entire company. We are all here today with one commonality: a deep love and passion for technology, a versatile and fast-paced industry that seems to grow, change, breathe faster than any comparable beast. I myself have spent many long days and nights with my sleeves rolled up, digging into the trenches of what the technology industry has to offer. That being said, I don't think I'd have it any other way. The last few years, business had been growing and growing and growing. This, of course, was good news for us. However, this also meant demands to deliver software and provide regular updates were growing exponentially. Each project came with its own requirements and complexities. The processes were becoming a major hurdle. This meant constant checklists for migration or endless configuration updates for client-server applications, and having to rely on someone physically push the product out to different pipelines was a huge bottleneck. For example, we had been working with other tools like Terraform, Nomad, Docker, and Ansible to cut these processes down, but still had to rely on an individual to manually push out updates, configure instances, networking, and everything else that goes with setup and configuration of a product. As you can begin to imagine, this was my nightmare. This is why when Simplified met Kubernetes for the first time, it was a match made in infrastructure heaven. It allowed us to fully automate the process of setting up instances, networking, and the scheduling of our Docker images, as well as keeping them alive. Once we began testing and smoothed out the kinks, we rolled out the migration to Kubernetes and haven't looked back since. In about a month, we had successfully converted all of our workloads to work under Kubernetes, both in development and in production. In the beginning of our journey, there weren't many resources to indicate the right or wrong way of doing things. So, with good old-fashioned trial and error, it was finally a success. With problem number 1 solved, I was on to the next. We had Kubernetes, but how could we deliver our software to different clusters, all with different configurations, without totally breaking the bank? This question triggered the hunt for a continuous delivery tool that could do it all. I was convinced that there had to be at least one, right? Unfortunately, I learned how very wrong I was. Each project required different tool sets, packages to build, such as Android, iOS, JavaScript, Golang, and the list goes on. We tried almost all of the CI/CD solutions on the market to implement pipelines that could be uniform across all projects, as well as share similar tools. But lo and behold, after implementing and running some of the latest and greatest, we were still not pleased with the results. Either the product lacked the ability to customize the build process outside the main tool, allowed for Jira or Confluence integration, required additional configuration via user interface, or lacked the authentication methods such as single sign-on or the ability to connect to a third-party Git provider other than GitHub. Most solutions couldn't trigger branches from a UI for non-developmental staff without having to build each commit automatically, and this wouldn't fit our workflow at all. On top of all this, the more complex our pipelines got, the higher the costs were. Our large projects produce tons of commits daily with a high build rate. No solution could provide a simplified deployment method to different build environments such as QA, staging, and production without some sort of modifications or workaround. And our team doesn't like band-aids. This took us far more time than I care to admit. But the investment was well worth it. That's when I found Jenkins. It checked all the boxes on our list. Being able to build every project based on their specified requirements, whether the need was building automatically, manually, or based off of branch patterns. At this point, it is safe to say the butler has never let us down. In fact, we love Jenkins so much, the proof is in the pudding. Or at least the array of stickers of Jenkins on our laptops, as you can see in the picture. Since implementing Jenkins, we have reduced complexities with a streamlined configuration on every project, as well as increased productivity and minimized the delivery time. Needless to say, the boss was pleased. With our previous victories behind us, we faced a whole new set of challenges. There was automating Helm charts and Docker container upgrades, as well as environment configurations. All the time we saved automating infrastructure was now spent managing configurations and project dependencies, such as SQL and NoSQL databases, microservices, and ingresses. There was no shortage of endless manifests, Helm charts, and triggering of upstream pipelines to push changes, and with that, I was back to my living nightmare. Along came Jenkins-X. We started to follow this project right from the get-go, and it seemed to be the perfect match for our workflow. The new features ranged from the ability to install Jenkins-X from the CLI on an existing Jenkins cluster to provisioning a brand new cluster, as well as creating and detecting of the required Helm charts, Dockerfile, and pipeline configurations, as well as being able to import an existing Git repository. Jenkins-X could easily set up and manage environments using GitOps. I call it hands-free, let Jenkins drive mode, or simply put, autopilot. But the list goes on. Let's just say I've yet to find something Jenkins-X couldn't do until we wanted to use Bitbucket as our main Git provider. After reaching out to their Slack channel, we quickly observed that the Jenkins-X team was well on their way to implementing a Bitbucket integration. My excitement continued to build as I anxiously waited for Jenkins' announcement to support Bitbucket, and in what seemed like no time at all, it was released. We had begun implementation of Jenkins-X immediately. It only took minutes of implementation and minor tweaks to our current Jenkins pipelines to convert to Jenkins-X. Just after a few days of testing, we pushed it out to production. My favorite thing about Jenkins-X and the CloudBees team is that they understand that every project is not the same, that it shouldn't take a degree in rocket science to deploy apps to different clusters, ranging of different configurations, all the while keeping you in control every step of the way. When I couldn't find information on something that may have seemed too far out of Jenkins' reach, the support team from CloudBees always helped me out, regardless of my addition to Jenkins, whether it was paid, community-based installation. I have yet to see a bill, and they didn't ask me for my credit card before helping me. Everything I got was totally free of charge. I was, and still am, blown away. Adding the butler to the team gave us the ability to integrate all of a project's dependencies as part of the project while keeping the repository up to date with version information. Now we can manage SSL certificates, ingress routes, as well as secrets using Kubernetes. The secrets management, in addition to the import functionality, made it easy to stand up new clusters and recover from failures in seconds. Jenkins-X has saved me a lot of time and hassle, and it's only getting better. And I'm loving it. The ability to create custom builders made it increasingly flexible, leading to clean, clear pipelines that anybody could understand. I went from spending days or weeks creating new environments and new projects, only to have Jenkins-X reduce this time to seconds. As you can also imagine, this has drastically reduced our costs and complexities, as well as expanded our ability to develop for any project or platform, no matter the requirements. With a little elbow grease and a good butler, I went from a living nightmare to turning concepts and dreams into reality. All of our developers now test, deploy, and monitor their own code on environments mimicking production in every way, shape, and form. All in all, we have been able to completely remove the fear our software engineers had while shipping code to production. It also increased our productivity over 100%. Not only that, it decreased the cost to infrastructure, workforce management, and most importantly, the one thing that cannot be replenished is time. Ever hear around your company that you shouldn't deploy on Fridays? Or a company-wide ban on shipping to production on a Friday? Well, Jenkins-X gave us the power to deploy any day of the week. And if you're wondering if we deploy to production on Fridays, the answer is yes. Absolutely. We try to get software out the moment it's ready. CI/CD gives us the power to do so. Well, what are we waiting for? It's demo time. Let's get into it. For this demo, the only requirements is a Google account, the gCloud SDK, and the Jenkins and Helm CLI tools. But don't worry, I'm going to show you how to do it right now. Step 1. Initialize the gCloud SDK. If you're no stranger to Google, you can safely skip this step. Step 2. Install the Jenkins CLI and the Helm CLI tools. Step 3. It's time to set up our Jenkins cluster. So let's hit it. Alright, so we'll start off by using the Cloud Shell. And we'll start off by getting the two CLI tools that we spoke about earlier. Now, let's install our cluster. Select the type and the region. I'm in Canada, so that's the region I'm going to choose. And for this demo, I'm just selecting all the defaults, with the exception to the container registry and storage, because I want to use that. And as you can see, we're setting up our cluster. Because this is a fully automated solution and is powered by GitOps, let's give it our GitHub username. And because I don't want to use a domain, let's just use the IP address with no IP. That'll help you get started faster. And then it's going to ask for a GitHub token. And sorry guys, for security reasons, I gotta blur it. Copy the token and paste it into Jenkins. We'll go for a static Jenkins server. And then we'll enable the Kubernetes workloads. If you have multiple organizations with GitHub, you'll be asked which one to choose. And we're done. Let's go have a look. I wonder if the Jenkins nose are around. And they are. Beautiful. Now let's log in to the UI. And there you have it. Jenkins in under 15 minutes. Easy as 1, 2, 3. Welcome back. As you can see from the simple demo I gave on implementing a starter Jenkins-X instance in 3 steps and under 15 minutes, there's really no excuse why you can't get started today with your own projects. As a vice president and a software engineer that ships code daily, I can confidently say it is vital that we spend less time building complex infrastructure and spend more time on what matters most, providing stable, quality software delivered in a controllable and effortless fashion so that you can focus on what makes your business unique and less about the infrastructure to support it. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope you enjoyed our story on adopting Jenkins-X. And if you have any questions, I would love to hear from you.